What is the thing we don't talk about in your family? I caught my parents smoking weed once when I was young, and one day, after I got yelled at for something threatened, that I knew a secret that could tear this family apart. I just finished taking Dare, so I thought that was a big deal. My parents flipped out. Turns out my dad was having an affair and my mom only had slight suspicions, and I brought the whole thing to light. Did not expect that at all. Guess there's not going to be much of a fight on who gets the kid in the divorce. The fight is over who doesn't get the kid. My second cousin was always very introverted. Nobody ever really saw him, and he never really met anyone beyond immediate family due to him just not being interested in knowing any of us. He left home and cut everyone off. Hell, I had no idea he existed. Fast forward and my first cousin is excited to bring her husband to the family reunion. The two eloped, so we did not know who this mystery man was. She walks up, and there's a second cousin with her. The older family members knew exactly who he was, and, well, they were expecting and married, so we said "F it" and just had a family reunion. We don't mention the cousin thing, because it's been acknowledged, and we all decided to move past it as to not make them feel weird. Edit, as many have pointed out, it's not so much a genetic risk as much as a social taboo. I still love them the same. Also, as requested, here's a rough diagram. So was he her parents' cousin? Well, technically yeah. He's the same generation as my first cousin and I, son of my mother and aunt's first cousin. He's technically my mom and aunt's first cousin, once removed, whereas he is a second cousin. I keep reading this and having a stroke. LMAO, am I slow? How my parents were able to afford a house suddenly while working a minimum wage job and having recently immigrated to America dirt poor. They would never tell me where they got the money from. You're not the only thing they smuggled in. E-man, head gets the bread. The Thanksgiving meal prep where my mother got her hand stuck inside the frozen turkey for several hours. Bringing this one up gets you the laser beam eyes death glare. Thank you for this wholesome comment in an otherwise fairly sad thread, though I have to ask, did she just have to wait for it to thaw? She ended up with her hand in the turkey in the sink with warm water running over it for a really long time, until it thawed enough to get her hand out. Was she refusing to unclench her fist from the giblets? I dunno. My theory is that when she tried to pull her hand out with the bag it made her hand/fist bigger and she got it wet and then couldn't let go or something. She wouldn't talk about it, so it is all just a guess, but that seems like the most likely scenario. When my grandmother was diagnosed with end-stage cancer, she offered to kill my father who was caught molesting me. Edit, yes, my grandmother was a badass, but I'm biased. I really wish she could see this. She did survive for 7 years after her diagnosis. She was my mother's mother. She loved coffee, lots of cream and sugar, Carol Burnett, and teaching real estate, in the same coral pink suit, but most of all she loved her family. To all the survivors of abuse reading this, keep on keeping on. Don't let it define you. You were awesome before, and you're awesome now. Edit 2. Thanks for sending the silver and platinum love to my grandma. My family really enjoyed the comments. You guys are great. Did you take her up on that? I was too young to know at the time. 5. She asked my mom. I didn't find out about this until I was 30. My grandmother passed when I was 12. The state I live in didn't do much to my dad despite him admitting to it, so he was still permitted access to my brother and me. I don't know any other details, except that he's still alive so it never happened. He lives in another state and I haven't seen him in over 20 years. My mom remarried the man I call my dad. Real good guy. Edit, I didn't know the offer was made to kill him when I was 5 years old, but I knew exactly what he was doing to me and still remember it to this day. Holy shit, I'm so sorry. The time my mom was on Wheel of Fortune. It did not go well. Edit, because holy cow this got a lot of notice. You're all going to be so disappointed in the reality of it. I'm going off of my memory here, because, as the post states, we don't talk about it, so I can't ask her for details. This was probably sometime in the 80s or early 90s. Basically, she knew every puzzle, but would spin one more time and each time hit bankrupt, or lose a turn. After the taping, Pat Sajak, another thing we don't talk about in our family, said something to her along the lines of he'd never seen anyone with such bad luck. I think she got $100 on the board game. My brother and I tried to play it, but she forbid it for many years. Why she didn't just throw it away, I'm not sure. Many years later I got the Wheel of Fortune game for Nintendo and could only play when she wasn't home. Picturing Randy Marsh from South Park. I know it, but I don't think I should say it. People who annoy you. Logistically, my sister's first child cannot possibly have been her husband's biological child, but he claimed the child as his own. They eloped about 6 weeks before he was born. There is no way he wasn't deployed when conception took place. She hasn't ever said a single word about it, but everyone knows. We are not sure if he's actually that bad at math, he is pretty dumb, or if he didn't care. Maybe he's got sperm issues and they decided to do the sperm donor way. Thank you for some positivity in this thread. To be fair, sperm was getting donated in both scenarios. That my family was very involved with a small 50 family top secret cult that included preparing for the end of the world and stockpiling canned goods and water in $1 million barn in the woods surrounded by small cabins. My parents got recruited for this cult when I was 4 years old and left when I was 15. It was our whole life. Everything revolved around it. All our money went into it. My parents can't talk about it. My mother flies into an insane rage. I've never told anyone the whole story start to finish. I doubt I ever will. I could write a book about the bizarre childhood I had. You need to do an AMA. The rampant alcoholism. I'll drink to that. Me too, sadly. Me 3. Me 4, loco. My grandfather had a lover 4 years before him, and my grandmother divorced. He started seeing her a few years before I was born. Right after the divorce was final, my grandma died from cancer and my grandpa married his old lover. She has a son, 2 years older than me, looks just like him. No one has dared to ask any questions. My cousin, who is a principal and was married with kids, had an affair with a teacher. She was also married. They both ended both of their marriages and got together. The teacher was my math teacher at the time. While this all happened, now they are married and I see them at family reunions. Extremely awkward for me. Edit. Happy cake day op. This couple must be so dumb. How can you expect to create a long-lasting relationship when it started from cheating on 2 people? How can they trust each other at all? It happens. My uncle cheated on my aunt with a married coworker. They divorced their spouses and married each other. They have been married for 25 years now and look happy when we occasionally creep their Facebook. It really ducked 50% of their children up, though. My dad cheated on my mum after 21 years of marriage with a family friend who left her husband of IDK how many years, and they are still together and engaged. They don't look happy because they are forcing their relationship to be the right fit after both sides of their families wrote them off. Oh yeah, and it ducked me up large as his daughter. I had 2 uncles. My uncle accidentally ran over his brother when they were in their 20s and drunk one night. The brother died a few days later. That's not talked about. Only found out from my aunt when she was under anesthesia and blurting out all kinds of shit. Holy shit. I gotta start hanging out with elderly relatives going under anesthesia. Every other member of the family worried, while op smiling ear to ear wanting to hear them secrets. We don't talk about the authentic shrunken heads my grandfather collected. They were buried with him. Probably for the best. Those things are almost never not cursed. Yeah, and they won't grow if you don't plant them with a fresh corpse. The physical abuse we suffered as kids. Parents have no idea what we are talking about when we bring it up. Same for me, but it's emotional abuse. Not intentional, and my parents will never understand. Crying myself to sleep because my parents would tell me all of these things that were wrong with me. They are never going to see that it's projection or wrong to scream constantly at small children and attribute adult failings to them. My dad tonight, yeah, we always treated you like adults. But that has pros too. You become independent, yeah, but we also become suicidal, depressed, anxious, and severely stunted in most aspects of our lives. But at least in my case they genuinely are doing the best they can. There's some quote I can't be bothered to dig up that goes along the lines of, "It made you strong. I was a kid. I didn't need to be strong. I needed to be safe."